Tune in to the Red, White, and Blue Show, where David, Martin, and Nick will blow your mind talking religion, politics, and money too. It's a talk show that's always in prime time. With their unique perspectives and in-depth analysis, they'll keep you informed on the latest news. So join the conversation on the Red, White, and Blue Show with David, Martin, and Nick. Your go-to views.
Okay, it's the Red, White and Blue Show. Myself, David Polder, Martin Costello and Nick Smith will be taking you through some topics tonight. We might get a little bit controversial, as we always do. Our very first show, as some of you may see, was taken down by YouTube pretty much straight away because we spoke about the Pfizer report. I'll leave it there and say no more. But that was striked.
Say no more. Say no more.
Yep, and we got a strike from that. So you can find that one on Telegram. It is floating about. Anyway, chaps, right, let's get straight into it. First of all, I want to touch on the situation with what I would call ungrateful refugees. So you may have seen the story in the papers. It's been floating around. There's some Afghanistan refugee families, and they're taking the UK government to court because they can no longer house them in the hotel, the 4-star hotel they've been put up in South London, and they're being moved up north. And they've got to take their kids out of the school they've been enrolled in. So they're now suing the government from that. So, Nick, what have you made of this story? I know we spoke about it briefly earlier, but what do you make of the situation? What's your opinion on it?
David, you know what? There's a pattern emerging, isn't there, over the last few years? I personally think it's a piss take on the highest level.
Yeah, totally.
Now, reading through it, right? So it says here a single mother of 2 fled the Taliban and was living in a Watford hotel for 6 months, which she describes like a prison. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Taliban, but they're a...
I don't know if you're familiar with Afghanistan.
but the Taliban are a torturous, murdering regime known around the world for many of years now. So if you've got the nerve and audacity to say that you've escaped them and you've been given safety and sanctuary and food and everything that comes with it in a Watford hotel, and you've still got the nerve and audacity to complain about it and say that it feels like a prison, then you're taking the you-know-what.
Yeah.
And this pattern has emerged time and time again, whether it be those we have relocated and allocated back to this country for whatever reason, or be it those illegally coming here on a dinghy boats. Shouldn't even be here, but yet they're complaining about the food, accommodation, when they shouldn't even be here. So it's a massive piss take on an epic level, and it's been happening for far too long. It's not me or you, David, or Martin, or the listeners listening, but it's our successive governments that have been far too soft for far too long, and everyone knows it. This is why we are where we are here. So it's an absolute joke, and for her to get a meeting with other MPs in the House of Commons to discuss this, I've got many issues I want to discuss and talk about.
Yeah. What's there to discuss?
I've not been invited. What an absolute joke.
Yeah,
Martin,
yeah.
what do you reckon?
Well, first of all, I've never been to Watford, so I can't comment. Maybe she knows something that I don't. But surely it can't be that bad. It's not like living with that murderous regime again. But I think what people are really getting annoyed with now is the fact that they are taking an absolute liberty when we offer them sanctuary if they've genuinely fled from countries that have put their lives under risk. We offer them sanctuary, and it's still not enough for them. That's why people start calling immigrants now.
Yes, exactly.
And it's the same everywhere, though. Like, I found another hotel in Swindon on Sunday. If you go onto my Telegram channel or YouTube channel, I've put up a video there where I went down the Thistle Hotel in Swindon, close to the public, just full of migrants. And the thing is, they come out, they're really well groomed, but they're always males between 18 and 30. But they'll tell you what, they're better dressed than me, and something weird is going on. It's frightening, to be quite honest.
And I wonder who's paying for their solicitors, who's paying for all the fees as well. It's gone to the court, so that's coming out of taxpayers' pocket as well, I would assume.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's okay, right. Next up, next topic I want to touch on with you guys.
Sorry, David. Just briefly before you move on, can I just say, and I'm sure everyone would agree with me, as I've said before, we as a country, people, nation, governments, we've been very friendly, generous, charitable for many, many, many decades. This cannot continue. This cannot continue. So we can't be described as a heartless, racist, or whatever. Because we've done our fair share for far too long, and this, we need to help those that genuinely need help, because that's what we are.
Quite,
we've got our own homeless crisis. We've got our own homeless crisis on our streets. The fifth richest country in the world, 2023. Many are ex-armed forces. They're not being housed in hotels, and if they would be, they would not dare complain about the food or the electric or the So I just want to just get that in briefly.
No,
that's spot on, mate. And it's absolutely spot on. And I think also as well, I mean, reading through that story earlier, one of the reasons for the move as well was to do with a lack of school places. And that being said, we're taking in X amount of people from, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Hong Kong, and the various, military age people that are coming over on the boats and whatnot as well. As we saw a few years ago, do you remember the child refugees from Syria that turned out to be gangsters? I remember a few of them being pulled over by the old Bill. Are you
on about the child refugees with beards?
Yeah. That's his. I mean, this is how pathetic it's got. They can literally throw their passport away, arrive in the UK, start a new identity from, scratch. And, I'm now 14, 15 years old, and they can now sit in the classroom with your 14, 15-year-old daughter.
Yep.
David,
these are men in their 20s or 30s. It's sickening. It's a joke.
It is sickening. But one thing as well, we need to remember that it's not really our government being soft. It's them wanting them to come in because they fill the hotels up for their mates with Serco. They're all profiting out of this. They're quite happy to let this happen.
Yeah. They're aiding and abetting it, and anything that happens to any British citizen, whether we've seen, particularly online. I don't know if you've seen this, chaps, but like these they've got these like paedophile hunting groups that go out and they set them up on like dating sites and they film it. The majority of them you're seeing now, a lot of them, are just new to the country, come over last week, been here a few days. And they've been here a few days and they're online, they're chatting to 13, 14-year-old girls, luring them into meeting them, to potentially rape them. It's absolutely sickening. The government are aiding and abetting in this. It really angers me. It boils my blood just thinking about it. This so-called conservative government. And I say so-called because anyone would think we had the bloody Labour Party in power. They are so left-wing. They make, I'll stop there because I'll start effing and blinding in a minute.
You're right though. There is a pattern emerging because where they, let's not beat around the bush. This is why we're here talking on this platform. From their culture and their backgrounds, it's quite willingly and acceptable to target young girls. And we can talk about whether in certain scriptures you're told that as soon as a girl enters a period, she's therefore a woman. We all know that some girls enter a period at the age of 11. They're not a woman at the age of 11. We're not sickos. We're not sickos. But I will give a shout out to John Mappin briefly, who was the first hotelier in Britain to turn down a massive financial opportunity to house illegal migrants in his hotel. He turned it down. So shout out John Mappin.
I can tell you. I was going to say quickly, Swindon. Actually, one of our hotels just recently had £40,000 worth of damage done to it by bored illegal immigrants as well. And of course, it's us, the Swindon Council taxpayer, that has to pay for that. So, the gratitude is certainly not there.
How culturally enriching. Lovely. Right. So next up, I just want to talk about these NHS strikes and stuff that we've been seeing. Is, as we know, it's politically motivated. And as we see with these situations, the types of people you see on the picket line. I'm sure you've probably seen some of the photographs. You can tell just by looking at them, they're just absolute raving lefties. I'm actually looking at I'm looking at a photograph now, which is on LBC's website, and there's a picture of some fat-looking communist, and he's wearing a t-shirt. His t-shirt says "Still hate Thatcher." Well, you're still a fat so and so.
Good God!
He's got a T-shirt on saying "Still hate Thatcher," and he's holding up a Royal College of Nursing picket sign. It says "The voice of nurses, solidarity." They love that word, don't they? Solidarity with NHS strikes. Guys, what? Yeah. Yeah. All the comrades together. I mean, if you look at some of the some of them. They all look, like they're, with their shaved heads and green hair and nose piercings. You can pretty much tell the type of people that we're talking about. Guys, what do you make of all the strikes? I mean, they've got more planned strikes coming up. They're talking about going on strike.
I think
on the 6th of February, 20th of February, 6th of March, and the 20th of March. They've planned more strikes. So. And the ambulance will go. The ambulance service go on strike on the 24th of January. I mean, they're putting people's lives at stake, at risk here, aren't they? Do you agree with me, or what do you make of it?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing we know it's those unions behind this. They're not happy unless they're causing trouble, because they're doing it throughout all the other services as well. And even the teachers have just voted to go on strike, so they're just trying to disrupt the government, basically. But again, the NHS, I mean, how much money can you throw at this monster? You got over 55,000 staff and over £100,000 a year. I'm sure the lower grade staff are on a pittance of money, but there is so much middle management. The whole thing needs to be restructured, because you just cannot keep throwing money at this. So I think this disruption obviously will cost lives as well. But don't forget those people who were out clapping them at the start of the pandemic. And now these people, when there is some work to be done, they're not there saving lives. So I don't have a lot of sympathy, to be honest. But there's other ways of doing this.
You're quite right, Martin. I quite agree with that. And I said to David earlier, there's a lot of mismanagement funds in the NHS. We can carry on throwing money, we can carry on raising taxes to give to the NHS, but if they're mismanagement with the money, then it's not going to solve the problems. If I'm right in thinking, it's 110 billion a year towards the NHS. 110 billion. I may be wrong, quote me after. But there's massive mismanagement of funds. Now, listen, you've mentioned earlier how many different departments are going on strike. It seems at the moment every Tom, Dick and Abdul are going on strike, apart from myself. I believe the country needs a pay rise. But I want to ask everyone on here, actually, David, the host, Martin as well, and listeners get involved. Do you think the NHS needs the 19% rise they're asking for?
I think
19%.
I think personally, they're going to need a hell of a lot more money, Nick. We're seeing, more and more of these NHS diversity inclusion managers. They're receiving approximately £46,000 a year, which is 19% above the national average, wage in the UK. So they've got to get the money in to pay for this. I mean, surely that's a job worth fighting for.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the other thing as well, though. Like they're talking about 19%, but if you're on one of those 55,000 staff on over £100,000 a year, that's 19 grand. Why the hell should they get that money? No. They really do need to have a massive clear out. It's just not fit for purpose at all. Too many pen pushers, and the ones that are doing all the hard work are being paid very poorly. It's just got to stop.
Yeah, I agree with you, Martin. But come on, let's admit the TikTok dances over the last 2 years were amazing. We got to give credit where credit's due. They said they didn't have enough time to call their loved ones or relatives and have enough time for an adequate toilet break, but they done these well-rehearsed TikTok dances. That deserves a pay rise.
It does. Well, at least they could have a career change if they wanted to, I suppose, couldn't they?
Ah, yes. Retrain. Who said that? Rishi Sunak. Retrain. They listened to him.
Well, chaps, I mean, it's the thing is, like we said before, it's all. I personally believe it's all. It's all politically motivated.
It is. Yeah.
It's nothing more than just. Was it one of the chairman of one of these unions was I don't know if he was a high-ranking member of one of the Communist Party UK or something. Have you seen that?
That wouldn't surprise me, mate.
I've seen a few copies of the Socialist Worker being knocked around as well on some of these protests. So, as usual, they're never far away, or some of George Soros's funded activists either.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? I think I'm just looking up this story now. It says hard left union barons behind ambulance strikes. There's this guy's name. I don't know. I don't want to. I think it's Bob Crow.
He was the former Mick Lynch, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, a former one. He was a communist socialist. They're all communist socialists, and that's what it's all down to. It's all down to it's literally all down to an ideology. We saw it with the lockdowns, as you mentioned there. Do you remember we were getting advice from Sage advisors, and it turns out the woman who was giving the advice turned out to be a bloody communist. Well, of course she wants to shut the bloody economy down. Of course she wants to smash capitalism. It's like having Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan is a vice president of the Fabian Society, which is an organisation that want to bring about socialism via gradualist and reformist efforts rather than through a revolutionary overthrow. So here's a great idea. Let's put someone with that ideology in charge of London's finances.
Finances. I didn't think they had any money.
Yeah, because he's got rid of it all. He's crashed it all. Yeah, and it's all deliberate. So they can say capitalism doesn't work. Yeah, because you've been in charge, you mug. Look what you've done.
It makes me laugh. Do you know, every time there's an argument about socialism, and we go, look, socialism doesn't work. Cuba, China, whatever. And they say, no, but socialism, it's not been done in the right way. We need to try it in the right way in Britain. Oh, come on.
Yeah. Narcissists,
no, we don't want to.
They would do it better, Yeah, they would do it better.
Everyone's equal, apart from the few at the top, isn't it? With the socialism, that's what they don't seem to get.
Well, speaking about the few at the top with regards to socialism, we've got Davos. So we've got the topic of Davos going on, where champagne socialist billionaires fly into Davos on their private jets, talking about how the plebs should live, and what we should be doing with regards to climate change, whilst the rules don't apply to them. Guys, what have you made of the recent Davos? And obviously there's a few A-listers that are missing from the meeting. Klaus Schwab being one of them.
I was going to say I was going to say the best thing about this 2003 Davos meeting is actually Klaus Schwab's is 84 now. So thank God that evil cretin doesn't have too much longer left. But
don't mix your words, Martin.
Tell us how you feel, mate. We've got to be honest about these things.
Martin. Martin, the thing with him, he's going to live to about 130.
He probably will do. Today he was. Yeah, he likely will do.
He's going to eat all them bugs and cockroaches, and he's going to live to 130.
Which is interesting, actually, because those claims that they made, the World Economic Forum, they just started to redact off their website. They're taking all this down now. But what I think is interesting about this year, though, I think it actually is running out of steam. This whole thing now. I think because the likes of us have been talking about to different people and what's actually behind all this, basically a depopulation agenda. and Agenda 2030, people are waking up to it now. But what frightens me really, they could move into the background. That is just a front, and they're doing other things in the background. But, you know, these characters go in there. Even Keir Starmer was there, you know. Again, our next Prime Minister, more than likely, just another World Economic Forum puppet. Yeah, they have infiltrated so many countries.
I hope you're right, Martin. I hope people are waking up to it, because he's been honest as the day is long that he said people that own nothing can be happy. He's been honest and said that he wants to penetrate every young cabinet around the world. He's done so quite successfully so far. So yeah. I hope people do wake up to what's going on and what's being said and done straight from the horse's mouth. You know. So it's but you know, you talk about Davos, David. This hoax still continues. You say about us plebs, and I've always said, they tell us little guys, they're going to tell me, Nick Smith, to ride a push bike and not drive. While they're driving gas guzzling cars, they're going to tell me to holiday nationally, not internationally, whilst they go on private jets to the other side of the world to talk about stuff they could have done on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So don't tell me I can't do this, that, and the other. And do you know what? There's a brilliant Lee Evans joke. It's called Saving the Planet, and he talks about the hypocrites, and you know, talk about how you should turn off your PlayStation or your TV at night to save energy, whilst they're doing this, that, and the other. It's a piss take. It's a continued hoax that's continuing. But I hope, like Martin says, people are going to wake up slowly and surely to it.
I hopefully will, because the other thing as well, they're trying to introduce these 15-minute smart cities, as we've seen, as they're trying to do in Oxford, which is a very, very dangerous concept. I mean, it's just going to be nothing more than an open prison, because they'll restrict you from traveling from different areas. But thank God the people of Oxford are actually fighting back against this. They can see it.
They are.
It's quite frightening, and when you think they want to introduce this metaverse as well, they literally want people just to stay at home, and just and not venture anywhere. Like I said, whilst they gallivant around enjoying everything else at the expense of us. Yeah, the hypocrisy is just mind blowing.
It's the typical do as I say, not as I do. They're saying it's about climate. It's not. It's about control. And the thing that really angers me most is we're meant to be a democratic country, and people, if I'm right in thinking, nearly 80% of people in the constituency of Oxfordshire voted against this 15-minute city, and they're still pushing ahead with it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you that you've once the trouble is, once you get this, this ideology in power. So, for example, it's a joint venture. So we're looking at these councils, and it's run by Labour, the Greens, the usual, watermelons, as we call them, green on the outside, red on the inside, pushing this agenda.
I love it.
But if you look at the overall, if you want to see where the globalists are taking us, you need to look around the world, because what they do is they test the waters. So they're testing the water here at these 15-minute cities. And I've been seeing what the response is. They're just treading lightly, like they did in Scotland when they passed the old gender reform bill. They're looking for the reaction and seeing how the public perceive it, how easy it will be to implement things. They saw with lockdown how easy people went along with their game. So now they're starting to put these things into play. So you've got them here in the UK. We've got these 15-minute cities going on in France as well, I believe. There's a couple of cities over there that's also doing it.
I think Melbourne will be doing it as well in Australia.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, that's for the communists as well. And then you've got the Netherlands, for example. The Netherlands, the government are forcing farmers into buyouts, so they're making them sell their lands to allegedly cut emissions. And then you've got Bill Gates in the US, who's now the largest farm owner, who's talking about, synthetic meats, eating bugs, they're pushing this agenda. All you got to do is look around the world in various different countries, and you'll see what they're up to. And then, that's going to be implemented everywhere.
They're off their rockers, mate. And you made a good point earlier about, this being trialled out. Shout out to, is it For Our Future? There's an organisation or movement going on with For Our Future where they delivered a shed load of leaflets through people's doors in Oxfordshire, and the leaflets were titled "You Are Guinea Pigs." which is totally right, because they are guinea pigs. They'll be used as a trial. So shout out to them for doing their bit. Shout out to Heritage Party, who will be in Oxfordshire on February 18th to protest about this. So we need more and more people fighting this.
And also, there's a few of us attending a protest this Saturday at the BBC headquarters in central London with regards to injuries from the instruments that we're not allowed to talk about. Yeah.
Don't even rhyme it. I don't even want to hear something rhymed with it. Don't do it.
Yeah, you know that.
All right, guys. Well, BBC deserve. They are one of the greatest traitors this country's ever seen. Joseph Goebbels would be proud of them. So you give them hell on Saturday.
For sure. Yeah, we will do. I'll give them a. Yeah, we'll give them what for.
And take that statue down. Take that statue down.
What's left of it after that geezer before. But anyway, that's all we've got time for. Thanks very much for joining us again this evening. So this will be uploaded to YouTube, to Project Natter. It'll be on Telegram and various other platforms. I believe Martin will be sticking up on Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be sharing it. I'll be sharing it as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys, and I'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Take care.